There are 58 aye votes and 52 nay votes.
Therefore, the bill is passed.
No way that bill left this chamber with an entire gallery full of people in every court sitting here.
This rally speaks for itself. Many people are here trying to get the attention of Governor Snyder and the Republican legislature.
This is 24-Hour News 8.
It's breaking news that we've been following for you all day long. We have just learned that Governor Rick Snyder has signed right-to-work legislation into law. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Susan Shaw.
And I'm Marla Ginter. History made at the state capitol. More than 10,000 protesters swarmed the lawn. Officers in riot gear made arrests. We've confirmed 3 people were arrested, although there may have been more.
From protests to lawmakers arguing to what's next, our team of reporters is spread out to bring you the best coverage. We begin with 24-Hour News 8's political reporter Rick Albin. Rick?
I'm in the governor's suite of offices over in the Romney building, just down the hall. He's still briefing the press about signing those 2 bills that came over to his desk this afternoon. Here's what he had to say just a couple of moments ago.
Just a few minutes earlier, I have signed these bills into law. So both the public sector and the private sector bill have been signed. So we are moving forward on the topic of workplace fairness and equality.
Now, those bills will not go into effect until 90 days after session ends, which should be somewhere near the end of the year. So those bills effectively go into effect about April 1st. Today was a very tense day in the legislature, a very tense day in the Capitol building, even more so out on the Capitol lawn. Joe LaFurgey has more about that coming up. But first, a look at exactly what happened today in the State House. It started as if it were a normal day. The legislature comes to order to take care of the people's business. But it was no normal day because the business of this day was right to work. There were impassioned speeches on both sides.
And we're going to pass something that will undo 100 years of labor relations. And there will be blood. There will be repercussions.
Republicans took a considerably different view.
Now, I urge you to support a bill that will give Michigan's working people the freedom to decide for themselves whether or not to join a union. This bill is not an attack on collective bargaining. In fact, workers' ability to collectively bargain does not change one bit.
But the frustration of the minority, knowing going into this day that they were likely to lose this battle, came pouring out on a procedural question. You cannot overemphasize what a sweeping change in policy this really represents, particularly in the state of Michigan, a state that has always been strong with unions and is actually the home of the UAW. But now, those people who go to work in union shops will have a chance to say no thank you when it comes to paying union dues. And that means unions may have to struggle to have the cash to do collective bargaining and also their political operations. A lot of angry folks here on the Capitol lawn today, and a lot of them right outside of this Romney building, too, where police had the place completely sealed off. I had to wade through 2 layers of police to get in here this afternoon, but the reason for being here is as soon as the governor's done talking with the media in the other room, he talks to us live, one-on-one, exclusively. That's coming up later on 24-Hour News 8. Back to you.
What a day, Rick. Thank you. The massive crowds got unruly on the Capitol lawn at times this afternoon, and at one point, protesters tore down a tent with pro-right-to-work supporters inside.
Damn near hit me. I've been hiding under that table for the last 5 minutes.
What? They just came at you, or?
They tore the damn tent down.
24-Hour News 8's Joe LaFurgey was live on TV bringing us those pictures as that tent came down. He's live now to show us what it looks like. Joe?
Yeah, good evening, Marley. Well, as it became more apparent that right to work would become a reality, opponents became more vocal and in some cases violent. As you said, you saw that tent put up by right to work supporters come down live on 24-Hour News 8 this morning. As some protesters cut pieces of that tent, others fought and others began to chant. Suddenly, state troopers armed with riot clubs began their chant, "Move back, move back." After it was all over, a member of the group targeted by the attack suggested that something more than just a tent was lost.
We just wanted to come to have an exchange of ideas. This is the state capitol. This is where we're supposed to talk about ideas.
There were as many as 3 arrests made today, although it would look like possibly more with all the police presence here. They also started a very kind of a wall down here in front of the old Olds building, the Romney building now, when some of the protesters tried to get in there as well. Of course, that is where the governor's office is, and that's where Rick Albin is right now. Back to you.
Rick Albin, just minutes ago, we did learn that Governor Snyder has signed that right-to-work bill into law in our state. We've been telling you about it. Rick is standing by once again with the governor. Rick?
Susan, thank you very much. Governor Snyder, thank you for joining us. Well, this has been a historic day. I mean, this is a policy change in the state of Michigan that you would have to go back decades to find anything that is this sweeping. Would you agree?
Well, it is a major change, but it's a good change because it's about stepping up for workers. It's pro-worker, not anti-union. It's really giving workers choice, and it will bring more jobs to Michigan. All you have to do is look to Indiana, and as soon as they did this legislation, thousands of jobs have come to Indiana since that time frame. It'll be good for all of us long term.
When you looked out your window today, if you did, you saw thousands of people who have a very different view of this law than you do. And they think it is anti-union. They think it was rushed through without hearings, all of the arguments that you've heard. What would you say to them? Because they are your constituents too, as they go home tonight disappointed, some of them angry, some of them got quite frustrated this afternoon. How would you reach out to them and say, we can still have a dialogue?
Yeah, well, I'm going to continue a dialogue, and I've had a lot of discussions with labor leaders going through this whole process. If you step back and look at, this is going to bring more jobs to Michigan. This is making Michigan more competitive as a starting point. So there's more opportunity for all of us. And in the context, again, this is giving workers choice. This isn't pushing unions away. This is just making it clear that unions need to show a value proposition to workers. And if they show that proposition, workers should be excited to join a union. And if they don't see value, that could be a message to a union that they need to do new and innovative things to reinvent themselves to be more successful. All of us can win through this process.
When we talk about the process, you and I had talked about it for a number of years, a couple of years we've talked about this, and you have said, not on my agenda. Did the legislature help drive this issue? Because I know there were people in the House that have wanted to do it for a long time. There was talk of a secret vote at a retreat where maybe as many as 22 senators said they wanted to do it too. Was it at that point that you had to reassess where you were?
No, not at all. It really goes back to the summertime when I advised labor leaders to please not move forward with Proposal 2. Because that was a very divisive issue on collective bargaining. And our citizens spoke on that, but I said if they move forward with that, my real concern is that would cause all kinds of labor issues to rise to the top, not only collective bargaining, but right to work, which is a whole separate issue. After the election, right to work just took off as a big issue, and it was becoming a very divisive issue, regardless of not being on my agenda. So I stepped up to say, now it's on my agenda. Then I came back later to say, okay, now I've made a review. Here's some leadership. Let's move forward. Let's get this done. And I believe it's the right answer.
This is something that other Republican governors, and I make the assumption here, John Engler comes to mind, might have liked to do, but weren't able to do. How important will this be on the list of accomplishments in the Snyder administration, understanding that you're very shy about taking any credit, you're not about taking credit, but this is still a very big deal?
Well, this is a big deal in terms of moving Michigan forward, jobs and worker freedom. But in terms of my own legacy, I don't worry about that. That's not the issue I'm here. I'm here to serve the people and to give great service to my citizens who are my customers.
Governor, as always, we appreciate your time. Thank you for talking to us exclusively on this night that we have made history in Michigan, and you can love it or hate it, but Michigan is now, or will be in about 90 days, the 24th right-to-work state in the nation, something that seemed improbable even 6 weeks ago. We're live in the governor's office in Lansing. Back to you.
Okay, Rick, thank you. The protesters who remain in Lansing right now are near the governor's office in the Romney building, and 24-hour News 8's Leon Hendricks joins us live. What's it look like out there now, Leon?
Sue, good evening. You just heard from the governor live. Now we want to show you what it looks like outside of his office. Once again, hundreds of protesters have come out. If you were with us about an hour ago, you saw us talking about how it was clearing out, not many people there. That sidewalk was easily passable, but after that announcement came down, the crowds came back, the chanting has started again, and so have the protesters. Of course, that's been the focus of the police effort here to try and keep everyone safe during a time where they're also trying to protect their right to protest. Even as the crowd swelled to numbers that police thought to be around 10,000, the early police interview was positive. Have there been any challenges so far?
No. There are plenty of protesters here, but everybody is voicing their opinion in a lawful and orderly manner.
But as morning turned to afternoon and right to work went from in discussion to being passed by the House, things changed.
2 individuals tried to rush past troopers into the building and scuffled with troopers and were arrested. The crowd was aggressive and tried to grab one of our troopers and pull him into the crowd.
Those incidents caused troopers to arrest at least 2, and others were treated after coming into contact with the spray. By and large, however, police called the day a success for crowds that got to be this large. They were prepped largely because of what they learned from Wisconsin, where protesters were able to storm the Capitol. Police here said they would have none of that.
Majority of the people in this crowd are good, hardworking people that are trying to make a point, and they're exercising their constitutional rights.
As the afternoon wore on, the focus shifted, like the right to work bill did, to the governor's office. At one point, protesters vowed not to let anyone out, even crowding the loading area to the Romney building. That changed with a few masked armed officers, many of whom said they supported the movement, but still had a job to do in keeping the peace. In Lansing, Leon Hendricks, 24-Hour News 8.
And during those protests, police used pepper spray a couple times to try and control the crowd. And among those hit was a former West Michigan lawmaker. 24 Hour News 8's Heather Walker spoke with him. Heather's joining us live now. How's he doing?
Well, it's not a good day for this guy. The former representative from the Battle Creek area, Mark Schauer, was hit in the face with pepper spray. He was one of about 10. And this video, take a look at this video. It happened earlier today. This video was actually taken by a protester. It shows just what happened. It's not an up-close shot, but it shows crowds pushing towards the Capitol and police pepper spraying them.
I just attempted to, cover my eyes and my face. I didn't know what was happening, and first tried to clean it out with a T-shirt. That didn't work very well, and I found some water and was able to flush it out of my eyes.
Now, the former representative is all right. He says many more got hit much worse. In Lansing, Heather Walker, 24-Hour News 8.
We will continue to stay on top of every development with this legislation. Tonight on 24-Hour News 8 at 11, we're going to be talking with the West Michigan Employment Research Group about exactly how right to work will impact business here.
And next at 6, new information about a Craigslist sale in Grand Rapids that ended with shots fired at the buyers.
Some light snow is falling right now across West Michigan, but we have warmer weather coming up in the 8-day forecast. That's coming up next.
Grand Rapids police are investigating another robbery involving Craigslist. They say this brings the total of four, I should say, since November 11th.
24-Hour News 8's Steve Kelso has been looking into this today, and he's found that there are some similarities in all of these cases.
Yeah, absolutely. In each case, the victim has run an ad on Craigslist saying they want to purchase an iPhone. They're then contacted by someone who says they have one to sell, but when they arrive to tender that sale, they're robbed. The latest happened last night at a shopping center parking lot on Eastern Southeast. Two men from Okemos had come to Grand Rapids to meet up with someone and ended up having a gun fired at the truck they were in after being robbed of money. No one was injured, but the window of the truck was blown out. Police say that while all of the victims have several things in common, they're not certain they're looking for the same suspects.
We are investigating the other three, obviously, from earlier. The detectives have this one now. We are getting phone records and working with Craigslist to get those commonalities between the four cases. If we have similar IP addresses or phone numbers and that type of thing.
One of the victims in these earlier robberies actually purchased an iPhone from someone and then went back for a second one, and that's when he was robbed. Police say any transaction that you conduct on any website like Craigslist should be done in a very public place. And if the person you want to do business with won't meet you in a public place, probably best just to ditch the deal. Live in studio control tonight, Steve Kelso, 24-hour News 8.
Thank you, Steve. Take a live look outside right now. Right after this break, Storm Team 8 meteorologist Kyle Underwood will have your 8-day forecast.
Watching out for you. This is Storm Team 8.
Overall, weather-wise, this evening will be pretty uneventful. Right now on Storm Track Live, we're just seeing some light snow out there, and much of it is along and north of I-96. A little band of very light snow here stretching from southwest parts of Grand Rapids, Granville, Jenison, down towards southern Allegan County. That's pushing northeastward as well. And again, all of this snow ought to be very light. Light flurries pushing through GR. If you're seeing anything at all right now, that should start to wind down here in about half an hour. Light snow through parts of northern Kent County like Sparta and Rockford, Kent City. You've got about 40 to 50 minutes before that snow starts to end. And then Big Rapids, we're seeing light snow showers as well. You've got about an hour to an hour and a half before that starts to recede. Now off to our west, we're seeing some light snow here in parts of Wisconsin as well, and that's really started to break apart. There was never much to it in the first place. That will be into West Michigan here later on tonight, closer to midnight. And again, any accumulations we see from either of these batches of light snow will be very, very minor. In fact, just a dusting at best is what we're forecasting. 33 now in Grand Rapids, a little cooler for Battle Creek, Coldwater, and Sturgis in the upper 20s. And we have 27 now in Greenville, 31 here in Big Rapids. Winds are out of the south-southwest, and so when you have a wind of about 20 miles an hour like we do in Muskegon, Fremont, Ludington, that makes the wind chill a little bit cooler than the air temperature. So keep in mind, if you have travel plans or outdoor plans tonight, just bundle up because it is going to be a cool night with temperatures eventually falling back into the 20s. By midnight with mostly cloudy skies, we're right around 30 for most of West Michigan, but all of us fall back into the 20s here toward daybreak tomorrow morning. 6 a.m. we're forecasting a temperature of 26 here in Grand Rapids. Through the day tomorrow, that very small snow chance starts to wind down. More sunshine as the day wears on. In fact, we will likely be mostly sunny by tomorrow afternoon and evening. The 8-day forecast calls for even more sunshine, warmer weather coming up here on Thursday. Bit of a breeze kicks in here, but we're still mostly sunny with a high around 45 here on Friday. Over the weekend, a chance for some precipitation, which will likely be afternoon and evening rain or a mix of wintry precipitation on Saturday, followed by light rain or light snow on Sunday and cooler weather as we kick off next work week. We'll be right back.
Police are hoping blood and tissue tests will tell them why 38-year-old Sally Case died while home alone with her 3-year-old son. Case's ex-husband went to her home on Harrison Street in Greenville to pick up his 3-year-old son on Sunday afternoon. The boy answered the door and said that his mom was upstairs. Case's ex-husband found her bleeding from a head wound. Investigators say Case was not a victim of a violent crime, but they can't rule much else out.
Well, it was a change few people noticed today, but one that could save lives across Kent County. The Grand Rapids Police Computer-Aided Dispatch Center went online at 5 o'clock this morning. The same system went online last week at the Kent County Dispatch Center. In the past, cell phone calls to 911 in the county sometimes were transferred from one center to another, leading callers to tell their stories more than once and leading to delays in response times. It was a call like this one that led to a long delay in a fire that killed a man 6 years ago in Wyoming, and that call helped lead to the change.
Make sure and stay with us. Sports is coming up next.
After further review, the former NFL commissioner has reversed a call of the current commissioner, Paul Tagliabue, who was called upon to handle the second round of appeals in the Saints bounty cases, overturned the suspensions of the 4 players involved. He did find 3 of the players were engaged in conduct detrimental to the league. Scott Fujita was cleared of that charge. NHL owners and players are headed back to the bargaining table tomorrow, and they'll be joined by a federal mediator. The meetings are scheduled for tomorrow at an undisclosed location. This is day 87 of the NHL lockout. High school basketball, Steve Marley couldn't wait to get back into coaching, but when he took the job at Grand Rapids Christian, there was one game he was not looking forward to. It's the one his Eagles play tonight when Rockford comes calling. Marley coached Rockford for 14 seasons, but had to step down after the 2010 season because of his Parkinson's disease had progressed to the point where it was impossible for him to coach. Since then, he underwent a successful brain surgery that has allowed him to get back on the sidelines. Tonight, his 0-2 Eagles take on a team full of kids he helped teach the game of basketball.
In fact, we tried to get them off the schedule, but they were already down 2 games, and then they were having a tough time picking an extra game, so we decided to play it. Seeing Coach Kuiper over there, a long time since 14, he's the reason I was able to go this far at Rockford, my disease, and it's very difficult. You know, you have mixed emotions. Of course you want to win. Believe me, I want to win with that one, but at the same time you have mixed emotions. In some way we could come up with a tie, or we'll just win by 1 point and we'll call it good. So.
Highlights of that game for you tonight at 10 and 11. College football, Michigan offensive lineman Taylor Lewan is a first-team Associated Press All-American. He's a 3-year starter, has played 27 consecutive games at left tackle. Michigan's offensive line allowed a league-low 15 sacks, averaged 385 yards of offense per game. And Wes Ramey, former boxing great from West Michigan, late Wes Ramey, going to be inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in June. Congrats.
See you tonight.
And then we have chances for light snow coming up Saturday and Monday.
Okay, we'll see you tonight.